what that each time. Professor Karigar, let me share with Professor Karigar. And if you look at our postgraduate curriculum, then you will understand how how serious the syllabus is. And Professor VINOD Kumar is our research committee member, and it is his home. And I invite Professor Dr. VINOD Kumar to deliver his address. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor, for your wonderful words. And it's my privilege to be here as part of this session as a plenary speaker, which was a long cherished dream that has come true. So first of all, I'd like to thank you for providing me this opportunity today. And when we were talking about the title, I was just asking him whether I can speak on Dean Muhammad, and immediately he said, "This is one of the universities in India which offers a paper on, which has included Dean Muhammad as part of Indian English literature." Astonishingly, not many universities have come forward to go beyond the Gaurudat and the triple pillars, and they have stopped at that. And in fact, I found it an appropriate point to start with, and that's how 1794, the early Indian English literature from 1794. But later, when I started perusing some of the materials I could find, because Indian English literature, not only written in English, it is also translated and also yet to be translated from many regional writings. So, which made me think of some other, to put it as a whole, right? I could find some travelogues or memoirs which could be part of the early modern period, which I thought I could just share at this junction. To start with, now we are in the process of rewriting the history. We are in the midst of the rewriting history, and all the colonies are in the midst of reclaiming their history. And how these travel narratives help us in the process of recreating our own history or rewriting the history will be the focus, with a particular focus on 6 writers, out of which 2 will be English, 2 have written in English, and other 4 have written in Persian, Arabic, and Urdu. Right. So the focus will be on these 6 writers. So that I also know that I am constrained. So I would like to throw some light on these aspects in my plenary session. Right. So, in fact, history has recorded the first traveler to India is John Millenhall from England as part of the East, as an ambassador from the East India Company. Even before East India Company was formed, right in 1579, you could find Father Thomas Stephens, who lived in Goa in Portuguese part, and then where he served, also recorded as part of the first what the British from the Roman side focused exactly focused on a literal, should not be looked at the other of the initiative of Europe, some input, which would serve as cultural artifacts to recreate the Indian history from the colonized point of view. So, what exactly is the need for any travel writing in India, Indian point of view, or from general point of view? Right? Journey, as we all believe, it will elevate and broaden the knowledge. It is also considered an education, and it is also considered a process of civilizing. And we also discover new lands and new peoples with new possibilities and with their new exoticness. And without facing the actual dangers, we enjoy reading the dangers faced by the travelers, and we have been also given this blackness and otherness by the European versions, which were not really existed at a particular point of time. These are all some of the later interpretations. When you look at this from the colonized point of view, it will give a different version, in fact. And if we tend to presuppose whatever that has been stated by the colonized or the blacks and the others, then we would definitely end up in a wrong picture, which, as I said, did not exist at that time. Okay? Many, as I told you, many travel, which includes Persian ambassadors and brokers, Armenian traders, African princes and slaves, Chinese seamen and merchants, Pacific Islanders, as well as many thousands of Indians to, to the Europe. But the portrayal of these people in English plays, never could be taken as a representation of the real life that these people live in their countries, respective countries. So, looking at the history from the colonized point of view, through these narratives, will definitely provide a better understanding of this counter history that we can produce through their viewpoint. Indian traveling and Indian narratives. In India, people belonging to different religious communities, regions, and castes, genders participated in overseas travels. But with a few regional exceptions like Gujarat and some parts of Kerala, they did not want to travel because of the impurities, because of the polluting impurities, and because of the concept of black waters, crossing the black waters. Some also, elite Hindu group, they don't want to get polluted because of this traveling. But when compared to the travelers written in English, many travelers are written only in Arabic and Persian, because Muslims are known to be the travelers. Muslims are born travelers because they used to travel a lot. After they settled in India, they traveled a lot to the holy sites, right? Hijaz, Iran, and Iraq. And always a Muslim is considered a born traveler, and that is one of the major reasons that we could find some four Persian writers who have written the travelers in Persian and Arabic and Urdu could be considered as one of as some of the major artifacts of literary culture in the process of reconstructing our Indian cultural history. I would like to say 6 writers, right? Let me start with the first one. He is Joseph Heming. Joseph Heming. He is an Armenian Christian born in Iran and lived in Calcutta for some time. And he visited London in 1792, and he also published a book on the life and adventures of Joseph Heming, an Armenian, written in English by himself. In fact, he wrote the book in English, but he may not be treated as part of an Indian culture because he went to Georgia and he went to Russia and he gathered army and he again wanted to wage war against his Ottoman Turks to fight to have this independence of his Armenia. And now he is considered as one of the pioneers of Armenian national liberation movement. So now he has a home, because we are talking about nationality, right? He has a nation to talk with. He has a nation to be considered as an Armenian. Now we come to Sheikh Dean Mahomet. Even the spelling is rude at that time because these people didn't know how to come up with the exact spelling of Sheikh Mohammed, Sheikh Dean Mohammed, right? Sakedean Mahomet. So he pronounces his name as Mahomet. Then it was recorded as Mahomet. As we all know that um, the Trichy and Cold Road. The Britishers gave an entirely different kind of name for these places and from their perception. So this is how this Sheikh Dean Muhammad was his travel was recorded, and his father was part of the Nawab army, and he also served the East India Company. And after his death, his brother served the company, and then he also was part of the company, and he moved to Ireland, and from there he got married to an Anglo-Irish woman, and he settled in England after a particular period as a surgeon, as an entrepreneur, one of the successful entrepreneurs who settled from India in England, and he wrote a book on request because people around him, around 320 subscribers were there. He mentioned all the names of the 320 subscribers who wanted to know the Indian culture through an Indian, right? And so he wrote his book, The Travels of Dean Muhammad, a native of Patna in Bengal, through several parts of India, while in the service of the Honorable East India Company, written by himself in a series of letters to a friend. This is the title of the book. In the year 1794, and this is where Professor Prabhakar has started this early literature in English. And apart from that, I am happy that he has also been part of this board of studies to include that in the university, apart from Kamala, the book that we have been talking about, right? So, and he was also a surgeon, and he enjoyed a thorough freedom there. So this is very important to note. That there was no racial discrimination at that time. No, because the consolidation, wherein the colonization was not consolidated at that time. They still wanted to establish their company here, and they were in the good terms with the Nawabs here, and there was a good relationship between the Maharajas and the East India Company and the soldiers and officers, and they used to throw party to them every occasion. So it was a proud moment for both the Maharajas and also the British armies, right? Army men to be here as a part of Indian system, and they also encouraged Indians being settled there, and so he could easily get married to an Irish woman and easily settle in England. See, this black, other, and other racial issues are only after during the 19th century, especially after the Sepoy movement, when the entire the kingdom was consolidated, right, as under the British crown. So these two books were written in English. These two books were written in English. One, especially for the English people to know the culture of India, and from the title itself, we can understand what sort of reverence that he has, for the East India Company, wherein he cannot write beyond, because he also knows that he cannot go beyond a particular limit, and in fact, that was the constraint. Even then, here and there, you could find the glimpses where he establishes his Indian culture, superiority of Indian culture, but he settled there peacefully till his last, right? Now, we move on to other four writers whom I am going to talk about. The number one, Sheikh Itizam Al-Din, right? Sheikh Itizam Al-Din, who traveled to England in 1784 to 85, and he wrote the book in 1785. The title of the book, The Wonders of England, or The Wonders of Vilayat, The Wonders of England. It was translated in 2001. The translation is available, and by the People Tree Publications, London, and it was originally written in English, and then originally written in Persian, and then it was translated into English. Number two, Munshi Ismail, who has written a book modern history, or otherwise it's called the new history. It was also written first in Persian, and then it was translated into Urdu in the year 1773. He talks about his travel in 1773 to uh, England and other parts of Europe. And in fact, it was a research project, through a research project that Dr. Nijama Arif, who has translated that, and it is available in Cambridge University. The manuscripts are available in Cambridge University, and it was also translated into English, first from Persian to Urdu and then into English. The third one is Mir Muhammad Hussain, who has written an essay, a travelogue on the title, Essays about the Conditions of Europe and India in the year 1776. It remains as a manuscript even now. It has not been translated into English. It is originally written in Arabic, and then it was translated into Persian later by the author himself. It was written in 1776. The last one, he enjoyed of all the four Muslim writers, he was the one who enjoyed his stay in Europe, and his name is Mirza Abu Talib Khan. Abu Talib Khan. He traveled to various parts of England and France and Europe, and he wrote a book. He wrote a travelogue on the title Travels of Talib in the regions of Europe, first in Persian, and then it was written in the year 1803, and later it was translated into English in 1814 by Charles S. Twajit, Twajit, which is available online. So Internet Archive is there, so you can very well have a look at this particular thing. So all these men, all these people, all these writers, right, had a strong cultural ties with India, and again with the lands west of India. And they were all sons of the scholar officials or the scribes who worked for both the Nawabs and later for the East India Company. And they did not surrender their identity. First of all, they did not surrender their identity. Though they had written for the Westerners, or to know something about the Western culture, to bring back Western culture, knowledge about the Western culture to the Indian people, Indian officials, they haven't surrendered their identity, and in fact, they at a particular point of time, they wanted to teach Britons about the Indian culture, the Persian culture, and the Indian administrative system. So that is these glimpses that you can read through from their travelogues. As I started, the first one is Sheikh Aitizam al-Din, the Wonder Book of England, or the Wonder of England. He worked under the Mughal king Shah Alam II, and who commissioned him to go to England as on a mission, right, to accompany a captain who is going to join there as a captain, Archibald Swinton. But the mission was not a successful one, because it was a failure one, and the sufferings that he had in England, because he could not have halal foods, and he could not. There was a cultural shock for him when he compared the Indian culture with the European culture there. So in his travelogues, and he also did attempt to learn English, and he had to totally depend on Swinton for his survival there, and he could not even do his religious duties, and he was conned off by the people there, and because of his religious practices, and who abstained from alcohol and wanted to have halal foods. But he stopped with reading Persian books in England, and he started to know something about the London street lamp system, water supply system, and the other things that which he has focused in his book. But in that book, you can find how did he comment on the contemporary um, culture that was prevalent in the among the women in London. That's very important to know. And the way in which the French and the English and the British regarded each other in a negative manner and with their chauvinistic notions. And he uses the word black for denoting himself and his Indo-Portuguese friend. But this blackness was not noted anywhere. This was not racial discrimination or discrimination. The lustful behavior of the market women, the prostitutes in London, the licentious nature of women, and where people used to flirt openly in St. James Park, which is a kind of a cultural shock. So he is an ambassador for an Indian culture, and also he fought for the rights of, because at times when people ridiculed the way in which Indian women were treated or Indian culture was criticized, he in fact retaliated, and he has mentioned that in his book. And even his spouse asked him to get married to an English woman where people are ready, but he refused. And he was criticized for the dress that he wore, the Indian dress. He never changed himself and he lived like an Indian there. And so this indicates that interracial marriage was not forbidden at that time when people were ready to marry him there in England. So 1850, it's only as part of the system that existed and people enjoyed. He is the first person to say that. And the second one I was talking about is Munshi, 1773. He moved out of India just for his financial crisis as a Persian teacher. But he too had a lot of confrontations with, because he used to interact with the Persian scholars there through, to the university scholars there through a translator, where he also defended the Indian culture. All these Indian women are so submissive, and how Indian men are subjugating women, and how do they ill-treat. These are all the main focus of the entire Westerners when they talk about, when they think about the Indian women. For example, I was talking about the last person, Abu Talib Khan. He wrote an essay, Vindications of the Liberties of Asiatic Women. It's an essay, Vindication of the Liberties of Asiatic Women. He wrote an essay which was published in 10 languages at that time, which had a wide popularity, wherein he was in the position to justify, the conditions of women by bringing in the counter culture, where you can see is this what you mean by culture? Is this what you mean by culture? The lustful nature of women in England cannot be tolerated by an Indian. We have seen even in India we have seen British women, but this is not the way that we could tolerate. How can you? And he justifies on 8 counts. I believe in 8 counts he justifies in this essay. So some of them enjoyed the privilege, some were not accepted. To start with, the homeless, the concept of liberation. Can we call Dean Mohammed as a diasporian? But he was telling me that because diaspora happens when a majority of the people move and on. Sheikh Dean Mohammed, in Andhra Pradesh, Talib Khan, Abu Talib Khan, where it's quite interesting to know. We all know the story of the death of Tipu Sultan, Battle of Srirangapattam, Siege of Srirangapattam. It was celebrated when he was killed. It was celebrated in the streets of Dublin by one Philip Astley, who is known to be the first man to established the circus and the other things, like the celebrations and functions through circus. He was the son of Sri Rangapattanam in Dublin streets. These two people, it was in the year 1799. These two people seem to be there in Ireland, and they condemned that, and they have written about that in their books. And this person, I'm talking about Hamburg Kasia, has traced them back and their contribution to the Ireland and also from India, the cultural ties between Ireland and India, how far each other contributed. And because you all know that 1798 is the year in which Ireland uprising happened, and he related that to the Indian freedom fighting, and also in what way both the countries had similar problems. So thus they are tracing, thus people from outside India are tracing these two people and trying to acknowledge their services. But still we are able to do that in our condition, right? So I would like to complete my talk by telling that this is high time that we acknowledge their services, and we started working on topics related to the travelers of Muslim writers. Probably they are still alive because they were not translated at that time. Otherwise, there would have been a kind of censure that they would have been subjected to before being printed. So, thank you for the opportunity, and thank you.
Thank you, sir. Yeah, we have online participants. Emigrant Kumar has questioned, how do critical theories on nationhood and nationalism help us to understand the and how can we work to challenge
The critical theories now, in fact, Foucault, everybody talks about the power structure, and naturally it exists, and critical theories help us in understanding what is it, historical.
understand the power dynamics and inequalities that exist within the societies?
Even if you take post-colonialism, it talks about inequality. If you take Foucault, talks about inequality, power structure. So these critical theories provide a good to project.
Thank you, sir. Prashant Kumar has asked, with areas of study such as race, ethnicity, gender, and what are the implications of these intersections of understanding of power?
So this is not a contemporary issue. This has been prevailing for quite a long time. Whenever we talk about different nations and race, it's not only from the colonial point of view, it's also even within the same section community, it exists, right?
Yes. Participants, if you have any questions, you can share it. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much for your patience.
Thank you, Professor Dr. Vinod Kumar. And we have a lot of questions in the YouTube and also in Facebook because we are going live. And all these questions cannot be answered by a single resource person, in fact, who has not spoken on the particular topic of issue. So there is a limitation. If the questions are to the topic, or if they are very specific about what we have spoken, the resource person could answer. So another sentence, judgment, and this is my personal note. Today is a daughter's birthday. Be happy returns. That we share. I mean, I have to. Who has come a long way from the University of Assam. Professor Vishnu Charandas is a professor working at the Assam Central University and such an erudite scholar, and he has published a lot in both national and international journals, and he has 36 years of teaching experience, a very sincere teacher, a very committed person, highly pious, religious, and if you could follow his Facebook, you can understand what type of person is Professor Vishnu Charandas. A very versatile writer, a translator, privilege to have him here in our midst. On behalf of Mulodmaniam Sundarlal,
Friends, scholars coming over the country, students, researchers, ladies and gentlemen, very good afternoon to all of you. I stand to speak something on the title, Negotiating Indian Notion in Indian English Poetry of the 20th Century. Though the title looks sweeping, I try to emphasize 3 points. Number one, what is the notion of Renaissance? Number two, how Renaissance is a Eurocentric discourse. It was from the Indian concept of Renaissance. Number three, how the concept of nation, nationalism, and nationhood were terminated out of this long trajectory of Renaissance, which roughly started with the Battle of Plassey in 1757 through Sipai Mutiny in 1857 down to the path of Indian National Congress and the long historical movement that gave us independence. So it's a long trajectory, but behind this trajectory, we have to keep 3 things in mind. As Professor Hariharan was talking about, 19th century was in fact the century of Oriental Renaissance, where it has 2 implications. The colonizers wanted to emphasize their hegemony, economic, social, political, cultural, linguistic. I think these things you know from the books of Edward Said, Orientalism and Cultural Imperialism. I will not go to that side. But this systematic hegemonization came as traders. East India Company, yesterday there was discussion by Professor Pradhan. They came as East India Company and sought the permission from the Mughal Badshah Jahangir to have some master slave dialectics, phenomenology of knowledge. So this is how the establishment of these societies, Madras Literary Society, Bengal Society, Asiatic Society of Bengal, these I think were political as well as cultural. These are 2 dimensions. So far as politics is concerned, they were trying to please, pacify the Indian revolutionaries. That was a tactful, very tactful move they took. And the other side of the picture is they imposed their language on us. And when the Indians become conscious, the Indian intelligentsia, where the great Raja Rammohn Rai of Bengal was there, they were all English-led people. They encouraged English because they wanted to revoke the colonizers through their own language. This is what Professor Marx was telling yesterday, quoting from Shakespeare's The Tempest. Caliban was taught the language, but he was about to return in terms of a class. So this is exactly the situation where the middle class intelligentsia of India wanted to revoke their hegemony through their language. Hence, so many things came up in terms of 19th century translation of different Sanskrit texts, Buddhist texts, and he was emphasizing the Sarita Sagar of Shramdeva. And let me start with the first part of what is Renaissance, and then we'll go to the historical development of Renaissance as a socio-cultural, political movement. Then we'll come to, as I titled it, negotiating the Renaissance, concept of Renaissance as a socio-political, cultural construct in the writing of Indian writing, English in general, and with special reference to some poets, starting from Henry Deruzio, through Sarojini Naidu, to Rabindranath Tagore, and C. that is my area which I will try to establish in the course of my talk. So to start with the concept of Renaissance, as all of us we know, it has its origin in England after the fall of Constantinople in 1453, and the scholars disseminated, and they wanted to carry the palm leaves and the text, and there was dissemination of classical Greek, Latin learning and culture all over the Europe. Started in Italy, then it went to Poland, France, then Germany, finally came to England. All of you know all these things. But I want to make a subtle difference between the Western concept of Renaissance and the Indian concept of Renaissance. The Western concept of Renaissance developed an egocentric vision as opposed to the medieval concept of theocentric universe. And apart from that, they also emphasized the concept of Renaissance humanity. As all of us know, let us love this world. Let us love these sights and sounds and the beauty, and let us love this world. This is also an idea which was developed later on by Karl Marx and the theory of Marxism. We are concerned with matter, material production, and means of production, and you know, that is there in our Sankhya philosophy also, that we start with matter. So matter is everything, there is no God in Sankhya philosophy. We talk about matter and the material world. So it is for the past time that the Renaissance came as a protest against the medieval concept of theocentric universe, that human beings were considered as sinners, original sinners. So remember the concept, the tragic burden of original sin was hanging over us, over humanity for long 1,000 years, right from 580 to 1500 AD. Thanks to Renaissance, had it not come, we would have been we would have perished under this tragic burden of original sin. And that was the greatest contribution. And the Renaissance people put a death knell to the hierarchical social order. This is very important. And then there was the death bell of the medieval chivalry, heroism, and all that. And this is how the Renaissance man became a subliminal egotist, a discoverer, an explorer, and wanted absolute freedom, wild latitude. This is very much manifested in Marlowe's Dr. Custis. I'm reminded, because as a lover of drama and poetry, I'm reminded of that line where he says, oh, this world of profit and delight. I'm quoting from Dr. Custis. Oh, what a world of profit and delight. Power of omnipotence, a sound magician is a mighty god. This is what Dr. Custis says. The Renaissance man wanted to be as powerful as a mighty god. That is the first signpost of liberalism, the first signpost of freedom, which we clamor for everywhere in all respects. Be it social freedom, as far as the revolution is concerned, or political freedom, or cultural freedom, or spiritual freedom, freedom in all its ramifications. So that is the signpost. Renaissance offered a signpost of liberation, and that was taken up in future in the matters of beauty, art, poetry. Emile Lewis says the Renaissance was the nest of singing birds. So that is Michael Angelo, so many to have center, tuitions, came up a drastic change in the mindset, elasticity of mind that was developed. And back to Indian Renaissance, where you find that Indian Renaissance has two aspects. It is socio-economic, political Renaissance, which stands for freedom from the bondage of British rule, colonial rule, and finally, in close proximity to this socio-economic political Renaissance, we have also a cultural side, and that is beside the reason why 19th century is called the century of Oriental Renaissance. You'll be surprised to know, my dear students, those were PhD students here and young research scholars, it was Warren Hastings, who was a very good friend of India. It was he who first appointed one British clerk in Calcutta called Charles Wilkins. Charles Wilkins went all the way to Banaras, my friend from Banaras city, and he was given leave to collect the palm leaf of Bhagavad Gita. And Wilkins was the first man to translate the Bhagavad Gita on our soil into English. And that was actually an revolution in translation. 19th century is the best century of translation, where apart from this Bhagavad Gita, there were a lot of translations, and this translation came in 1830 when the Oriental Renaissance was in its full swing. And you have Sir William Jones' translation of Kailas's Abhigyan Shakuntalam, the magnum opus in the world of drama. We see Goethe, the German poet, appreciated like anything. And then we have H.S. Wilson's translation of Meghadutam of Kalidas in 1789, exact date, very much significant so far as translation is concerned. Then we have E. Arnold's translation of Bhagavad Gita, 1880, and the Gita Govinda of Jayadeva, which was translated into more than 35 languages. And the establishment of Bengal Asiatic Society in 1780. These things, these movements, created a sensation and provided a powerful fillip to Indian Renaissance, and went a long way to infuse the spirit of Indians in their own culture, besides attracting different foreign travelers. And my former speaker was talking about travel narratives. In fact, the travelers, scholars, and translators were ignited, whether it is Western or Indian. We kind of changed, drastic change in the mindset, but let us know each other. Let us know the Indian text, ancient Indian texts. There's a line in the garbage. We have picture of Charles Wilkins, thanks to Charles Wilkins and Warren Hastings. And we always say that British have done a lot of harm, they have finished our things. No, they have also given some good things. They have imposed their language, not ours, but it is through their language that we are recognized now in India. Now Indian texts are now recognized all over the world. So how can you say that there is always two sides of the same coin? Which are the wise people always take both the sides. Let us go for a discussion and analysis of these two sides. And then we have in this connection, I put a line from Aurobindo's very famous work, The Renaissance of India. And what Aurobindo says in his Birth Centenary, volume number 14, Aurobindo says that Indian Renaissance was more akin to the Celtic movement. This is the fundamental difference between European Renaissance and Indian Renaissance. Because European Renaissance was a wild experience from Italy to Holland, from Germany to France, then England, but it was not exclusively a Renaissance which sprouted forth on the soil of England. But ours is a Renaissance which had its germination in our soil. Hence, it is compared to the Celtic movement of Ireland. From I think VINOD KUMAR was talking about this movement of Ireland, and some kind of movement that reminds us of our cultural past, our history, our music, our storytelling, narrative technique that was given by Professor Trichy, which is exemplary all over the world. But sir, I also a man of Sanskrit now. I have full access to Sanskrit. And I understand when he was giving the lecture that our Professor Trichy has established the past narrative technique in this one. And this is how Aurobindo has given a beautiful juxtaposition of Indian Renaissance, Celtic Renaissance, and Indian Renaissance was more akin to the Celtic movement in Ireland than the European Renaissance, precisely because it ignited and rather reawakened the national spirit. This is the point, dear friends, with which we are associated. Now, in this connection, so far as my understanding goes, this is a very, very complex area with many angles here to trade. A lot of questions are there online, but to my mind, after 37 years of teaching experience and research, I think nation is a complex socio-political economic construct. Nationality is associated with identity of a person, of a society, of a community, of a race, of an ethnic community. And then we have nationalism, which to my mind is a citizen movement. And this is how all these things are interwoven, interconnected. But precisely speaking, nation is a notion, a socio-political, cultural notion. Nationality bears the stamp of identity, and nationalism is a movement which has started right from Battle of Plassey down to our country being free, set free, 16th of 15th of August 1947. So this is how our idea about nation is, I think, made crystal clear by both Aurobindo and Rabindranath, not to speak of Benedict Anderson's Imagined Community, or I have the book, he was critical about the book Nation and Narration by Komike Baba. many Bharathidasan's book on nation and disintegration. Many were not going to confuse him, but I have a straightforward way of negotiating Indian Vinasa in the writings of the Indian writers, starting from Henry Dereggio. I will now proceed to Henry Dereggio slightly later, but I am coming to the historical part of Renaissance. First, this Renaissance started with the champion Raja Rammohn Rai, a polyglot. He was the master of many languages, with proficiency in many Oriental and Occidental languages such as Bengali, Persian, Hindi, English. Precisely why he is called the father of Indian Renaissance. And apart from the establishment of Brahmo Samaj, like our societies, there are also three societies: Brahmo Samaj, Arya Samaj, and Prarthana Samaj. We shall discuss in succinct terms. Brahmo Samaj was established, and Rai in his essay, Raja Rammohn Rai, in his essay, in defense of Hindu theism, brilliant essay, when he is the first man to talk about the cultural aspect of Indian Renaissance, he vindicated the efficacy of the monotheistic system of Vedas. As a champion of Indian Renaissance, he was the first powerful social reformer who tirelessly fought against the social evils. This is the first historic movement they have taken, how to eradicate the social evils, and including these ugly practices of dowry system, ugly practices of widow burning, what we call Satidaha Pratha, which was there during the time of William Bentinck, Raja Rammohn Rao, along with Ishwar Chandra Vidyasagar, were down and out against this ugly system, social evils that have eaten into the vitals of Indian society, apart from disintegrating, separating us on the basis of caste, creed, community, religion. These are the things which were the areas which he took up to fashion this Indian Renaissance as a social reform. This is the point. Raja Rammohn Rao, the social reformer, down and out against the social evils and blind beliefs that were prevalent in Indian society, and his tirade against the practice of widow burning, dowry and caste system, emphasis on education, as evident from his famous letter on English education. I told you a few minutes back. This middle class Indian intelligentsia wanted that we should learn English. We will write in English, we will talk about our ancient cultural heritage in English, so that people sitting in the Hall of Affairs in London will learn what India is. And reminded of A.L. Parsons' book, The Wonder That Was India. So that's why in his famous letter on English education, written on 18th December 1823, he has created a sensation that, and this is the letter which is called by M.K. Nair in his book on history of Indian English literature, the Manifesto of English Renaissance. And the political contours of Indian Renaissance can be satisfactorily located in the petition against the press regulation. We also have decided against the press regulation, which intervenes the suppression of the freedom of the press. So this is how we can never forget the contribution of Raja Rammohn Rai. Professor K.R. Srinivas Iyengar brilliantly presents the 7 cardinal vows of Brahmo Samaj. I have no time to go to the details, with emphasis on righteous deed, abstaining from vicious deeds, unconditional love of God, the Creator, the Preserver, and the Destroyer, belief in monism, and the formless nature and blissfulness of benign God. So, interrogating the so-called idolatry and these rituals and these blind beliefs. So, one of the efforts to worship of Rai, Brahmo Samaj invigorated the Indian Renaissance movement, which was further taken to high degree of perfection by Ananda Mohan Ghosh. Many of them are from Bengal: Keshav Chandra Sen, Prince Bharathidasan Thakur, and Rabindranath Thakur, the father of Rabindranath. So, while rejecting casteism, irrational human belief, history, superstitions, Rai, by virtue of monotheistic belief in one and only one Brahman, as eulogized in Upanishad, had started on several fronts the great task of national reconstruction. He wanted to unite India from the Hindu Kush, the Himalayas, to Cap Cameroon, and from Arabs to Arunachal Pradesh, area from where I had come from. And on the basis of this spiritual bond of oneness, because Brahman, Satya, Jagat Mitra, this is what Upanishad says, there is only one Brahman. God cannot be many. We may give many names. reminds me of Lata Mangeshkar's song, na? तुझे क्या कहूँ हे अल्लाह, तुझे राम कहूँ या श्याम कहूँ या ईश्वर कहूँ हे अल्लाह, तुझे क्या कहूँ हे अल्लाह. This is a fight song by Lata Mangeshkar. So God is one. This is what exactly yesterday my friend was talking about Vivekananda. No, Ramakrishna Paramahansa and Vivekananda were not in good terms initially, but Vivekananda asked him, "Have you seen God?" Then Ramakrishna Paramahansa smiled and answered, "Yes, Naren, I can show you God. I cannot show you God as a person, but I can make you feel God." Then he gave this example that what you call water in English is called jalam in Sanskrit, is called jal in Bengali, is called pani in Hindi, is called pani in Korea. So the objective same, and the objective is same. The objective is water, H+2, scientists say, and the objective is to quench our thirst. That is the definition of God, and God is everywhere, omnipresent, omnipotent, and omniscient. So he proved it by going to the Krishna temple. One day he said, Ramakrishna Paramahansa said, feeding to a lifeless statue of, a lifeless idol of goddess Kali. See what it meant? This is one, if you go by this belief, this is one that has been made many. This is Vedanta philosophy, one that has become many, and many finally came to become one. This is the sole purpose of Vedanta philosophy on which he is trying to capitalize. He wants to unite the society from the Himalayas to Cap Cameroon, from the Arab Sea to Arunachal Pradesh by the bond of unity and integrity. This is called spiritual aspect of Vinasa. And then there came K.C. Sen, and then the Brahmo Samaj leaders tended to effect a happy marriage of India and the West also, because they were all English-speaking people. So now I am coming to the history of Indian Vinasa, and which had its basic sway from Bengal to Punjab and Maharashtra, and shaped the thought process of such liberal statesmen like Mahadeva Govinda Anare and Gopal Krishna Gokhale, as also the outlook of the militant Indian nationalists like Bal Gangadhar Tilak, who was guided by the spirit of patriotism and a committed fight for Swaraj. These are the important landmarks in the history of Indian nationalism. Together with Agarkar, his friend in Deccan College, Tilak formed Deccan Educational Society, another society also, and evinced keen interest in traditional Indian culture and values and our ancient cultural heritage. It was Sanskrit, now the revival of ancient past, which is the sole motto of Indian Vinasa. It was Sanskrit rather than English that was Tilak's forte. And his note on the interpretation of the Vedanga Jyotisha, published in 1825, indicates this fact. In him, one finds a brilliant synthesis of Indian cultural renaissance and zeal for political freedom in favor of Swaraj. Swaraj is my, I quote, Swaraj is my birthright and I shall have it. So, political dimension of Indian Vinasa is now coupled with the cultural dimensions of Indian Vinasa, and finally tending towards what we call the liberation of the country, freedom, which we seek for. The Indian Vinasa in the northern India thus aroused the consciousness of the peasantry. This is very important. The subaltern scholars are working on it. How to go to the grassroots level. The best approach says history must be written from the below. In provincialized Europe, wonderful book. History must start with the common man, peasantry. And this revolution was taken off in Maharashtra, and then they wanted that they have been politically, economically, and culturally exploited by the colonial government, and the national movement for freedom and Swaraj needs full support from the grassroots. So as to defy colonial oppression, I quote it, the line is from the book Navigating Nationalism, edited by Palit and Sengupta in Bengal. Like Tilak, there was Vasudev Pharge, who was an aggressive nationalist. With the help of peasants and common men, he revolted against oppressive landlords and moneylenders, who was deeply venerated in Maharashtra as the messiah of peasantry. On the other hand, there was educated intelligence. Very important, we started with Ram Mohan Rai. Now we are coming to this educated intelligence of the upper class to champion the cause of moderate nationalism. So nationalism finally coming to this bifurcation, militant nationalism on the one hand and liberal nationalism on the other. And among these we have the demarcation, the moderate nationalism was based on, rounded upon this democratic outlook. The Marathi intellectuals like Gopal Krishna Gokhale, R.J. Bhandarkar, K.G. Kalan, Dadabhai Naroji followed the footsteps of M.D. Ranade, and the radical group tended to dominate the Pune Sarvajanik Sabha, another kind of society that was established in Pune. And Tilak used culture as a powerful tool, weapon to promote the nationalistic spirit. So what was done by Radha Rammohn Rai and Bengal was done by Balgangadhar Tilak. Culture was taken as a tool and a weapon to foment the nationalistic spirit. He organized Ganapati and Shivaji festival. From here I shall jump to the mythical method and directly go to the Indian National University. So he organized Ganapati and Shivaji festivals to drag the common masses from the grassroots level into political movement and envisaged the emergence of new India, quote and unquote, what is translated by Aravinda as Abhinava Bharatavarsha. That's it. By negotiating a synthesis of culture, politics, patriotism, and military nationalism. So with this few words on that was also a Prarthana Samaj. I have no time to go into details. So now we come back to the literature, and meanwhile, apart from translation, there was also a rousing enthusiasm in Bengal regarding the inspiration we should give to indigenous language. So Renaissance was not one-sided. Renaissance was not only translating Sanskrit text, it was also an enthusiastic move for encouraging regional language. That is a lesson which we learned. That is the nature of Indian politics for the 30 years. You know, Congress party is gradually dying down and regional parties are coming up. And that is a direct pointer that we cannot neglect the minorities. We cannot neglect minority culture. Gone are those days of meta-narratives, of grand narratives, what we say in post-colonial discourse. Let us have respect for the grassroots. And this is a direct call given by Bankim Chandra Chattopadhyay in Bengali literature, and he wrote several novels. I have no time because I am an avid reader of Bengali literature also. So he wrote Dukya Nandini, Kapala Kundala, and Vande Mataram, all of you know, which is a part of his classic revolutionary novel Anand Math. And I am just citing 2-3 lines from Anand Math. In Anand Math, which was translated in 2005, much later, though the original novel was written much earlier, in 1882, after a long 3 decades, it is being translated as Abbey of Bliss. So in that text, Vande Mataram is taken as a patriotic slogan, and the concept of Mother India emerges. Bharat Mata Ki Jai. We say no, this concept of Mother India was first given by Bankim Chandra Chattopadhyay in his Anand Math, where this song constitutes a part. And this has been translated, and it bears the nationalistic stamp which reflected through the rebel of the common people as sannyasi. There are characters of sannyasi like Mahendra, my friend was talking about yesterday. And sannyasi against the British Raj East India Company in the backdrop of economic depression caused by the Bengal famine in 1770. The protagonist Mahendra's inclination to join the monks against the British and the glorification of the 3 faces of Mother India. This is very important. You are Bankim Chandra Chattopadhyay, who emphasizes and envisages India in terms of 3 goddesses. And they are Jagadhatri, Goddess Kali, Goddess Durga, so as to win the rebels. They fight against the East India Company. They won the first battle, and with the chanting of songs, the novel comes to an end. Vande Mataram, with the devotion to this mother concept. That's more important. The rest is unimportant. For the first time, India as a mother goddess, Bharat Mata, emerged in Anand Math, and this also spread in different regional languages. Our neighbor, I am originally a man from Odisha. In Odisha, many writers of the early part of 20th century were hired by this patriotic zeal, and our Dr. Sahitya Sarathi, Bharathidasan Senapati is one of them, who was also satirically presenting the ills and evils of English language in his first monumental story, Rebati, and a series of novels on 6 acres of land are there. In Assamese literature also there was Lakshminath Besburwa, Sahitya Rathi Lakshminath Besburwa, and this is how in your part also yesterday we were discussing poets Subramanian Bharati over India, right from Bengal to Punjab, from Punjab to Maharashtra, from Maharashtra to Odisha and the southern part of the country. There was a concerted cultural endeavor to make India aroused so that we will be awakened. The primary purpose of Renaissance is to awaken ourselves, to know thyself, what the Upanishad said, to know thyself, and to know the other self, and what you call the master of all selves. So now we come to the part of literary representation. I will wind up within 10 minutes. So far as the literary representation is the word from Aristotle's Poetics. I am not happy with it now. So this is the word. I think someone was complaining yesterday about this word negotiating, and I don't know whether my friend is here or not. This is a word which has been in post-colonial discourse for the last 35 years. And the first man who used this word is Stephen Greenblatt, one of the stalwarts of new historicism. And the book is Shakespearean Negotiations. It was published from California University in 1988. And the second, which I capitalize, is by Eric D. Barreto. The name of the book is The Function of Race and Ethnicity, published from Tübingen, Germany in 2010. The same book, The Ethnic Negotiations. So Shakespearean Negotiations by Stephen Greenblatt, followed by Eric D. Barreto's The Ethnic Negotiations. Negotiation is the key word because we shall have to intermingle. Time has come, what this gentleman said, Romike Baba, cultural ambiguity or hybridization. There is the hour, this is the call of the hour. Let us know each other. And I shall wind up, sir, with this idea from Rabindranath Tagore. I hope negotiation is a better word than representation. And representation was done much earlier. And now I am coming to Indian writing English, where we find the negotiation of the Indian Renaissance, which may help the students of Indian writing English also to find out. I shall start with the first powerful writer, Henry Louis Evian Delazio, who was a teacher in Hindu college in Calcutta, now Kolkata, and he was hired with the reformist idealism and fearless spirit of inquiry, high passion, romantic imagination. Because as a teacher of Hindu college, he was inspired by the romantic movement spearheaded by Rousseau, down to Wordsworth and Coleridge and Byron. He was particularly impressed by Byron's fierce vision of a society that's based on the ruined ashes of corruption. Both Shelley and Byron were revolutionary leaders of romantic movement, and Wordsworth and Coleridge were moderate. Byron and Shelley were revolutionary prototypes of this romantic movement. And this fearless spirit of inquiry of Delazio is the past representation of the Renaissance, and it was he, through his poetry, reacted to such system. As poignantly identified through the tragic life of a high-class Hindu widow, Nalini, rescued from the funeral pyre by her robber lover in this work now, monumental work. My dear students, please remember, the Fakir of Changira. And if it is to be included in syllabus, I think it is there. We are trying to include in our Central University. The Fakir of Changira is the first powerful signpost in Indian writing in English, where he is interrogating the social evil for the system, and the subsequent death of the lover, and the beloved in a hostile condition, and the belligerent social situation are all described with poignancy and pathos. There is just poems, further poems. Title is India is there. To India, my native land, the harp of India, and to the people of Hindu college. The very titles speak volumes. Here the stamp of his burning nationalistic cheek and patriotic spirit. With what is noteworthy in Delazio's adroit use of myth. Now, friends, here I will take my course, present course of my trajectory to indicate the point that Indian Renaissance was fully fortified by our engaging interest in the mythical method, the critical work which I have derived from Elizabeth Drew's book on T.S. Eliot, written back in 1939. So that what is very beautifully used mythical method in T.S. Eliot's Westland. That was the book from where I have used this word mythical method. Delazio was the first poet who took to Indian myths and legends, such as Himalaya, first men, Dida Prithipya Ivamanadanda. You go to that Kunal Sambhavam, the first line is invocation to Himalaya by Kalidas. Astu Tarasyam Nisidevatatma, Himalayo Nama Nagadiraja, Urpa Paratuyas Pitiko Adya, Kitapudipka Ivamanadanda. This is the whole world's role of dignity. Pujipla Ivamanadanda. The whole world must go down before Himalaya. Our symbol of India, symbol of dignity, cultural profundity, philosophical profundity. What a wonderful sentence. I think Kalidas is the first powerful nationalist. So this is how, following perhaps these things, thanks to Derocho, like Nessim Ezekiel, who was not born of an Indian parent. I'm not trying to go to that parent, you know about Nessim Ezekiel. And then you have the word Himalaya, then he uses the word Ganga from the poem Song of the Indian Girl, then Chandra, Moon, which is part of Indian astrology also, and then the poem is Eclipse, and then Sweet Sitar, Song of the Hindustani Minstrel, which is, I think, profusely references where we find, and Derocho has established a tradition of reverence for myth making. These myths are there, we are there, but they are revisiting, so they are poetic representation of Indian myths, and which was further taken into high degree of perfection by Sarojini Naidu, Babu Datta, Aurobindo, and Rabindranath Tagore. And in this connection, I want to tell you something about myth. Myth is usually taken as a sacred narrative in folklore. By Alan Dundee, he defines as a sacred narrative that defines the fundamental worldview of a culture, emphasizing spiritual aspects, psychological and social practices. There are yet other critics who say myth has also philosophical and secular dimensions. We accept all-embracing in an all-embracing way all the connotations and nuances of myth. And keeping this in mind, Alan Dundee's definition of myth, we come to Toru Datta's poetry, where she finds she was profoundly influenced by her own mother, and where Ramayana and the Mahabharata became a set metaphor, because our children are reared right from the very cradle to the story of Sita and Ram and the war between Kauravas and Pandavas. This engaging interest in Hindu myths, Sita and Savitri, were used as extended metaphors by our two powerful archetypes of Indian womanhood, and whereas our narrativization of Dhruva Prahlad, devotee of Lord Narayan, Dhruva Prahlad, goddess Una, Bharata, Lakshman, in the book Ancient Ballads and Legends of Hindustan. This should be also prescribed. I suggest this should be prescribed in our syllabus, Indian writing English, apart from Fakir of Javira. And all this tend to indicate the fact that Toru Datta is the first Indian English poet, I quote, Toru Datta is the first Indian poet to make an extensive use of Indian myths and legends, MPNI, as known as which underscores our instinctive understanding of the Indian mythical consciousness and spirituality that was ignited by the 19th century Renaissance. Our glorification of Savitri's matchless beauty, devotion, characteristic of a good wife, our belief in the law of karma and the omnipotence of fate, Prahlada's belief in pantheism, and the story of King Dasaratha and Saban Kumar from the Ramayana. All these things have been poetically narrativized in Toru Datta's poetry, and they bear true testimony to Toru Datta's mythical method and archetypal consciousness, besides bringing to the fore or engaging interest in the Ramayana, the Mahabharata, and the Vishnu Purana. Toru Datta's cousin Ramesh Chandra Datta wrote both novels and verse translation. It is another contribution to our Indian Renaissance by this Toru Datta's cousin Ramesh Chandra Datta. Translation from Sanskrit and Prakrit classics such as Rig Veda, Upanishads, works of Kailash, Arabi, and the Buddhist Dhammapada. Datta was obviously under the impact of the 19th century Indian Renaissance. His novels like Todar Mal, historical novels on historical personality, Todar Mal, Shivaji, Pratap Singh, and the slave girl of Agra. The whole novels, you may take it as the high post of historical novel, and they bear true testimony to his historical importance. This is necessary, which I will wind up because in order to develop a complete notion of nation, we must possess this imagination. Here, emphasis is not only on mythical imagination but also on historical imagination, which was developed under the impact of Indian Renaissance. The mythical method, taken in conjunction with historical imagination, employed by Toru Datta and Ramesh Datta, continue like an unabated stream to enrich the poetry of Manmohan Ghosh, his brother Aravinda Ghosh, and Rabindranath Tagore, and Sarojini Naidu and Kamala Harris. I'll point out within 2-3 minutes. And then Manmohan was a professor of English at Presidency College. Like Derogio, he made poetry a living reality, and his collection of poems, love songs and elegies, songs of life and death, and the poem on Nala and Damayanti, wonderful narrative in the Mahabharata. In Odisha, we had folk dance and drama where Nala Damayanti story is being profusely spread, and they try to seek the title of the things, Nala and Damayanti, by this Manmohan Ghosh. These are all examples of his outstanding political genius, love for India's cultural past. Manmohan's fearlessness for death is a direct echo of Upanishadic thought of the immortality of soul as developed in the Bhagavad Gita. One who is born today will die tomorrow. The soul does not die. Remember that line. Yatasya dhruva mrityu dhruva dharma udasya asmata parihatyate nattam suchitamapasi. So soul is indestructible. It cannot be destroyed. So this is how we come to the last part. Rabindranath Tagore and Aurobindo were profoundly influenced by the political, cultural, and spiritual contours of Indian Renaissance. The most outstanding genius of the modern India, Rabindranath Tagore was a humanist, a nationalist, and this is all the more evident from his 3 essays written on nationalism. Nationalism in the West and nationalism in India. In the former essay, he defines nationalism as a concept grounded upon the combined contribution of politics and commerce. In order to survive as a nation, one has to, Rabindranath Tagore criticizes, this is Western concept. And in order to survive, we have to become, unquote, a political man, a commercial man, and a man of limited purpose. This is how Rabindranath Tagore was a fast, powerful critic. We know him as a poet and a novelist and illustrator. He is now a powerful critic who interprets the Western concept of nation. The Western concept of nation is guided by, grounded upon the territorial boundary questions and the question of what we were asking on dynamics of power and aggrandizement of other countries. These territorial questions cannot be taken as an example of nation. This is how it straight away rejects the Western concept of nation. And he criticizes this narrow territorial integrity and aggrandizement for power. Tagore calls this narrow nationalism. Western concept of nationalism, according to Tagore, is narrow nationalism. And in Tagore's word, it is a geographical construct. What they say, Bhogoliko Upadevata, Rabindranath Tagore's word, Bhogoliko Upadevata, which signifies a dark, elemental, unpredictable kind of power. On the contrary, Tagore forwards, this is our idea, which will wind up the universal nationalism, and which is grounded upon the principle that people are greater than nation. I emphasize. What is important is not nation. Nation should not be worshipped as a god. According to Tagore, who is followed by Aurobindo, we find nation is not to be worshipped as god. If you call a concept of nation, the nation is the nation of the people. And that is what Tagore said. Humanity is divinity. Humanity is divinity. And he wrote a book called The Religion of Man. On the basis of the line from Bengal poet, Bhakti poet Chandidas, I think some of you might have heard the name Chandidas. What he says, you are talking of man and man and man. What is man? Man is the supreme truth. Oh humanity, listen, man is the supreme truth. Manush, Shavai, Gorai, Manush, Kere Bhai. Everybody talks about man. What is man? Shavai Upar, Manush Satya, Tar Upar, and there is nothing beyond humanity. Therefore, Tagore professes nationalism in terms of humanity, the religion of humanity. And that is a universal nationalism. Let us embrace the whole country as a whole, irrespective of caste, creed, color, community, and religion, and ethnicity. In Northeast, I am speaking a word of ethnicity. Let us learn each other's language, each other's dialect, each other's ways, beliefs, and all that. So that is Tagore's concept of nation is a spiritual construct. I have come to measure, which has nothing to do with politics, power, territorial aggrandizement, cultural imperialism, and bellicose temper. He was against the destructive and imperialistic mindset of the West and always deprecated communalism, regionalism, spiritual sectarian chauvinism, and instead emphasized the idea of humanity and freedom in a larger perspective, which is evident from his poem Bharathidasan. Look at the title. India is called a spiritual land of pilgrimage. Bharat is Tirtha, and he is converting this word India, Bharat, India is their level. It is not our level. Our level is Bharat. Therefore, Rabindranath Tagore justified in his writing poem Bharat Tirtha, and he transformed Bharat Tirtha into Mahabharata. And in the poem, and then the best poem in Gitanjali in this context is where the mind is without fear, and writes 3-4 lines, where the mind is without fear and the head is held high, where knowledge is free, where the world has not been broken up into fragments by narrow domestic walls. Underline this word, narrow domestic walls. They would walls upon all human beings, all Indians, irrespective of caste, creed, color, and community. Let us transcend these narrow domestic walls. Let us not say, Sari is from Odisha, someone is from Bihar, someone is from Punjab, someone is from Maharashtra. Let us all stand under the platform that we are all sons and daughters of Mother India. This is his outlook. Where the mind is laid forward by thee into ever widening thought and action, into that heaven of freedom. Heaven of freedom, also NASA, is grounded upon in Tagore's word, vision of freedom. Let all be free. Let all enjoy. This is the extension of the very concept. Let all live in peace. And then let my country away. This is the fundamental motto of Renaissance, that we must away. And this is what Aurobindo said in his ideology. Let us away. See, Aurobindo also followed this thing because he was a champion of Vande Mataram, Bankim Chandra Stella. Champion of Vande Mataram. He edited was Journal Vande Mataram and Bhavani. So these are not to be told now. And then I quote one line from Aurobindo who says, "Who is our actual enemy? Not Britishers." I quote, "Our actual enemy is not any force exterior to ourselves, but our own crying weaknesses, our cowardice, our selfishness, our hypocrisy, our purblind sentimentalism, defectivism." Unquote. To Aurobindo, India is the ancient mother, should be reborn only when Indians are endowed with enormous energy. Believes in integrated philosophy and yoga. I have no time to go for that. He wants to awaken yourself, never feel weak-minded. This is the right lesson from Bhagavad Gita. And we must develop our enormous energy, strength, courage, and in Bhavani Mandir, from journal you were editing, stands as an ultimate to the colonial power, an ultimatum to the colonial power, which undermines the power of India and the Indians. And it is through the journal Vande Mataram that Aurobindo advocates its four-fold program. These are the last words. First one is resistance. Spirit of resistance, what everyone side was saying in this. Number 2, non-cooperation. Number 3, Swadeshi outlook, as emphasized by Bharathidasan. And then finally, national education. Our educational system should be such, is very important, in such a way that starting from Arabian Sea to Arunachal Pradesh and from Himalayas to Kashmir, education should bind us, integrate us. This is Aurobindo's extension of integrated vision of yoga philosophy. And then, and this integration, what is the integration? Integration should continue in both spheres, psychic and physical existence, and above all, dynamic action and ethical sense. And nationalism, Aurobindo's own lines, I quote, "Nationalism is not a mere political program." Listen, my dear students. Nationalism is not a mere political program. Nationalism is a religion that has come from God. Nationalism is a creed in which you shall have to live. So it is not to be taken in its political implications. It should be taken in its cultural, in terms of its cultural implications, so that we can go for negotiation. And to remember Chetan Bhagat's novels, Two States, where Ananya, the heroine from this part of India, marries one man from Northern. Very interesting novel. I think that is one of the best novels to integrate India in terms of North and South, in terms of East and West. Let us embrace each other. I will wind up. And here also in Homi Baba's line, nation is the soul and the spirit of people. If you want, I can just quote that line also. Yeah, Renan. And Ernest Renan has translated, and he says, I quote, "What is a nation?" This is the title. "A nation is a soul, a spiritual principle. Two things which in truth are but one constitute the soul or spiritual principle. One lies in the past, our love for the cultural past. Past means our love for the cultural past, our glorious cultural heritage. And one in the present." So So there will be negotiation between the past and the present. Let us build up our brilliant past on the basis and the foundation of the long, rich and glorious ancestral heritage, so that the purpose of the very seminar will be fruitful, and the idea of negotiating nationhood and nationalism will be realized. With these few words, and students, I thank you all, and scholars and generally, and before I leave, I thank my good friend, young and energetic health department and dean of schools in Sundar University for having invited me all the way from Assam, despite my personal sickness and personal problems. I'm very much thankful to you, Professor Gowata. We are getting every evening and morning. I and Professor Pradhan are talking and talking in great of your university. And I don't know when I will come again, but I wish and bless and the students, and I pray to the Almighty that the university should grow and establish itself in terms of a meaningful mark in the history of Indian academicians and academics. With these few words, I thank you. Thank you all.
Any clarification?
I started to listen from your Raja Ram Mohan Rai study and information technology. But did you forget to mention any names? Like did Raja Ram Mohan Rai alone part in his study and
There were not many my young friends. I forgot to mention the name of Ishwartan Vidyasagar also. At his home, he brought a child, widow, as his daughter.
like Philip Perry, because we could see that in recent times more of the seminar, like not seminar, like in the lectures, most of the people trying to avoid the British involvement in the Reformation in Bengal and the Indian Renaissance also.
Yeah, yeah.
That's why I'm asking.
You are absolutely right, but that is a topic to be taken by history people because I have to.
No, I'm talking to because you mentioned Radha Mohan Rai and the.
Because Radha
I'm to that
Mohan Rai-
one part also. That's why I'm asking that question.
Because Radha Raman Roy come from Brahmo Samaj and he is called the father of Indian Renaissance. I mentioned him.
Yeah, you mentioned that, sir.
Uh-huh.
But I'm not right against that, sir. Yes, sir.
Yes. So that would be developed by you. Young people, you have to write more and more on historical things now. But I have set the trajectory so is to negotiate the Indian concept of Indian Renaissance in Indian like in English. My primary purpose is to come to poetry. So that
Yes, sir. The more that.
okay, I think you are satisfied.
Yes, sir. That one more question. Yeah. Because the more most of the background is from Indian writing English, but that one part is like a reformation. Like Raja Ram Mohan Rai is the father of reformation in India. So in the time there are many reformation happened in that time with the help of British people and Indian people also. You mentioned that. But sometimes we could good to mention British name also, sir. Like Willie Perry in some other name, because they contribute many to Indian society.
Yeah, I told you about the translators. No, most of them are Britishers. No, I was talking about Charles Wilkins. Charles Wilkins is
Yeah.
Indian.
Yes, sir.
Charles Wilkins, W.H. Wilson, and this Arnold, and your Sir William Jones. These are all Americans. Yeah. These are the names. They are Western. They are not Indians.
You could mention with Raja Ram Mohan Rai with Willie Perry. That's what I'm asking. I'm
I
taking
am
that.
trying to ask him, but I have answered also. Not because that was original Renaissance translation. And that they have provided us the belief that we should translate our original novels into English. That was done, and Anand was translated. Many novels in South have been translated, as Professor was saying. So translation is the powerful medium to bind this country from east to west and from north to south. That was done. First thing was done in 19th century. 19th century is essentially a century of translation. Translation of ancient Sanskrit text, Vedic text.
You also mentioned about Sadi and widow marriage and that part also. But and that part also you mentioned like the Rajara Mohan Rai alone fought against that. So likewise you mentioned that Rajara Mohan Rai fought alone against Sati, but
No,
but not that role.
tell you, my point was to start with Radha Raman Rai as the father of Indian Nyasa, then to take it in terms of a trajectory, it's a methodology now.
Okay.
In terms of a trajectory to situate them in the poetry.
Sir, I took it from the information background, not the like.
Yes, sir. We'll discuss over our lunch.
Okay, sir. We will discuss. James Trivara, St. John's Town.
Thank you, participants, for the thank you, participants, for the vibrant interaction with the resource person. My next speaker has already left the hall. He is on the move, and he is on the move. Actually, this is Professor Kun Ahmed's time session, but it will be quite unjust if I call him to. And I said unjust. It will be quite unjust. He was scared. It will be quite unjust if I call him to speak at 1:50. Okay. Dear participants, the delay is due to your arrival, the late arrival in the morning. Okay. So we have given the invitation and we have printed it at just like a minute program. It was supposed to start at 10, and once we are actually one session late. We are lagging the session. So we will have our lunch now. We will have our lunch and come as early as possible to the session at 2 o'clock. Mind you, only after the two presentations, your paper presentations will be allowed. So, if you make a delay, then today we will not have the paper presentation, and we shall cancel the paper presentations. Okay. And because that is the deal, and that's the schedule. And coming to the interaction with the resource person. This conference is made in order to make the students aware of the Indian English literature, which has expressed the formation, the construction of a nation. Like the nation is in the making. The nation is on the making. Who called it the nation? The literary writers, they called it the nation. And in fact, there were many differentiations with the British government, with the British rule, and it is not the theme or the focus of this conference. This conference is specific to the point 1794 to 1950, a discourse on early Indian English literature. We have marked the year 1794 because the first publication of Indian English literature is Dean Muhammad's The Travels, got published in the year 1794. Why did we start with 1950? Because India became republic. And we are talking about the formation, the construction of nationalism, nationhood, and we start with the nation state. The nation state, 1950, India has become a nation state. So the nation state is different from the nationhood. It's an emotion, but it has become a republic. So we are very much aware, we are quite conscious about our title and our theme. We started with the first publication. We entered with when India became a nation state. A nation state. A nation state is political governance, and we start with it. We don't want to have perhaps in a seminar. We will have from 1915 to 2013, including the nation state and multiculturalism, globalization, east-west encounter, and all these things. We have a plan to conduct another conference where we shall discuss all these things. In fact, many fought against such. It was not only Rajaram, Mukherjee, William Jones, and anything. Many, like including, if you touch upon the legacy, if you come down to south, then you have to talk about Periyar, you have to talk about other things, you have to talk about Periyar, you have to talk about that Swami Dayananda Saraswati, Swami Dayananda Saraswati, even Pune, Ambedkar, and others. So that is not the theme of the conference. Okay. Thank you for your healthy, thank you for your healthy interaction that opened another dynamics of this seminar. So we should break for the lunch. Come as quick as possible so that we can have your paper presentation. Professor Kulla Ahmad, you can be relaxed. You can be relaxed and your session is the first to be actually. Thank you.